The former Army intelligence officer, Tony Shaffer. Tony,
Charles.
You know, it's one of these things we hear. This is what we hear from President Obama over and over again. But
right.
You know, these sort of attacks began long before there was any anti-Muslim rhetoric out there from anyone.
Well, that's a great point, Charles, and exactly the point. Look, ISIL was ignored by President Obama as a threat going back 3 years ago. My friend, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, was behind the scenes trying to point out the threat, and he was ignored. So with that said, this is a completely insane and false statement by the president. And Charles, to continue the theme of some of the reporting earlier on your show, this is a little finger on the scales trying to favor Ms. Clinton over Donald Trump. This is exactly what I've said on your show a number of times. This is the use of national security as a political tool. What President Obama is saying has absolutely no merit within the intelligence community or within the Pentagon and the intelligence officers there. There is no basis for this threat. So this comment, the threat is there, the threat is real. And oh, by my goodness sake, Charles, we've just seen in Germany, Syrian refugees, I would argue that they're actually sleeper agents, causing all sorts of havoc. That has nothing to do with racism, has nothing to do with anything except you're actually allowing, in the German case, an importing of radicals into your society prepared to do ill. That's exactly what Donald Trump has said we don't want to do here, and I think we need to learn the lessons of Europe before we had to learn the hard way by them coming here.
Tony, what about the so-called homegrown or self-radicalized Islamic radicals who take these missions on themselves? Listen, I don't believe there's such a thing as self-radicalization, but some have argued that the sort of political climate is helping to push some of these people over the edge.
I don't believe it, and I'm with you on this. No, there's no such thing as self-radicalization. Something either pushes you, some association, affiliation, or link to a larger group. If that were true, Charles, why don't we see radicalization of all these other religious sects which have extreme views? We just don't see that. So we see an organized effort by ISIS, by Al-Qaeda, and others. And look, John Kerry actually made the insane comment that refrigerators are more of a threat than ISIS is. When you have that kind of ignoring of the fact that ISIS is a real threat, that they're behind the scenes trying to organize individuals and groups to take up arms and do severe acts against us, that tells me everything I need to know. It's all about trying to make us look the other way. There's no such thing as self-radicalization. It's a process that people know. Yes.
Or it tells you that someone who flies around in private jets and thinks that everyone goes windsurfing off Cape Cod, for recreation, just totally out of touch.
Absolutely.
Earlier, I had Rick Grinnell on, and he talked about boots on the ground. You know, it's a term we don't like to use, or we don't use as much. But ultimately, we have to destroy ISIS's command center. A lot of people say it could be Raqqa, maybe somewhere else, whatever it is, but some sort of a commitment that so far over the last few years, there's been a real pushback from the public on this. Do you think the next commander-in-chief has to go this route?
We have to do two things to be effective, Charles, and this is another failing of President Obama to blame where it is due. Look, we have to do both tactical, as you talk about, going in and trying to recoup and regain lost ground to ISIS. The Pentagon, according to my sources there, think that we'll be pretty much settled by January regarding retaking lost ground to ISIS on the ground. It's tactical. But we have to look strategically. The messaging of ISIS, where they've gone past Syria and Iraq. We have to have a global plan. President Obama and the National Security Council has refused repeatedly to come up with a global strategy and a global plan to use all elements of our government to go after ISIS. So the Pentagon is doing as best it can regarding the tactical plan. I think we're regaining ground. With that said, it's really irrelevant if you're actually using tactics to defeat a strategic foe, and we have to focus on that foe.
Tony Shaffer, thank you very much. Always appreciate your insight.